Okay, well, we'll get this show on the road. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Cindy Erickson, Tour Coordinator for Women Xplorers, and I'll be facilitating the presentation this evening. Joining me is Tour Director Kari Carpenter, who is going to tell you all about the great sights and attractions you're going to enjoy on this tour. Welcome, Kari.
Hello, Cindy. Welcome to everybody. Hello.
Thanks, Kari. Before I turn the presentation over to Kari, I have a couple of things to go over. First up is our lineup of our upcoming virtual presentations. On November 9th at 7 o'clock p.m., you can learn about our epic adventure to the 7th continent and Antarctica. On November 16th at 7 o'clock p.m., you're going to hear about our new tour to the Pacific Northwest. And on November 24th at 7 o'clock in the evening, it's our Westworld Tours in Review presentation. And joining us that evening will be our VP, Dean Smith, and our tour director, Coral Romanchuk. And if you've missed any of our previous live presentations, we have them available for viewing on our website, westworldtours.com. And if you would like to receive invites to future presentations, as well as timely information on new tours, we recommend that you sign up for our email newsletter. And I'm going to launch a poll onto your screen right away, asking you to let us know if you would like to receive the newsletter. And you won't be inundated with emails, and you can unsubscribe at any time. There might be a few more emails than normal right now, as we're trying to keep everybody up to date on our virtual presentation series. So I'm just going to get that poll launched here, give you all a chance to respond to the newsletters. Now, if you've joined us on Facebook, the poll is not going to show up on your screen. And you can simply send us a quick email to information@westworldtours.com, or you can hit your message button on Facebook right now and send us your email address, and we'll ensure that you are kept up to date with the newsletter as well. So I'll just give everybody a chance here to respond to that newsletter question, and then we'll move on. Okay, it looks like we've got everybody there, so I'll just end that poll now. Thank you, everybody, for participating in that. Then questions. We encourage you to ask questions at any time throughout the presentation. That being said, everyone has been muted, so we ask you to type your question into the Q&A box that's located on your screen. And we welcome all of your questions, and we will answer as many as we can at the end of the presentation. Again, if you connected to us on Facebook, enter your question into the comments section on Facebook. And again, we will respond to your questions at the end of the presentation. Women Xplorers is proud to have provided refunds in full to all travelers affected by canceled tours due to COVID-19. After all, you should decide when and where to travel, not us. Having your travel plans canceled was disheartening enough. COVID-19 has changed today's world, and Women Xplorers remains committed to the well-being and safety of our travelers and team. We are doing all that we can to adapt to the new requirements and expectations, and have enhanced our already robust health and safety protocols to keep everyone safe while traveling with us. We ask that you visit our website for the most up-to-date COVID-19 information and travel policies. Now, a little bit about Women Xplorers. We are a division of Westworld Tours, one of Western Canada's premier tour companies that has been serving Canadians from coast to coast with escorted travel throughout North America and around the world for over 20 years, celebrating our 20th anniversary last year. Women Xplorers believes travel is more than just seeing places, it's about experiencing them. It's about nurturing your senses, getting off the beaten path, spending time with locals, savoring those traditional dishes, exploring the landscapes, touching the history around you, and so much more. Delivering a highly personalized and rewarding travel experience Our fully escorted small group itineraries are designed by women for women of all ages and backgrounds that share an adventurous spirit. Singles, sisters, friends, and of course, new friends you'll meet along the way. You can choose your own room, bring a friend along to share with, or benefit from Women Xplorers guaranteed room share, where you are paired with another woman to avoid that dreaded single supplement. Offering soft adventure style tours, fashioned to enrich the lives of women by exposing them to new and exciting experiences through travel and friendship. There's no need to be physically fit to enjoy our tours. However, being physically active is important to have the best experience possible. And really, it might be hard for you to believe until you've experienced for yourself, but traveling with and getting to know women with a common interest can be as rewarding as the travel itself. We invite you to soak up the history, the mystery, the culture, nature, and adventure with us as we explore the globe together. Now let's get to our Women Xplorers Tales, Trails, and Tastes tour, exploring Newfoundland, Labrador, especially the Great Northern Peninsula in Newfoundland. So this tour departs July 16th till August 6th, 2022. It is a total of 12 days and 11 nights, where you'll cruise sheer-walled fjords, walk through diverse landscapes from windswept shorelines to rare geological oddities in Gros, Morne UNESCO World Heritage Site, listen to tales of Vikings at Landsall Meadows, and throw yourself into the life of a 16th century whaler at the Red Bay Basque whaling station. Wow, that's a mouthful. Relax amid the culture, enjoy the friendliest people, and experience the hospitality of Newfoundland's coastal communities. You'll encounter it all, along with plenty of fresh ocean air, incredible sunsets, and breathtaking scenery that changes mile by mile and more. And without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce you to Kari Carpenter. Having grown up in a family where travel has always been important, Kari loves to travel, meet and spend time with people, and learn about different cultures and places around the world. Kari has been guiding tours with Westworld Tours since 2013, spending many a summer on our tours throughout Newfoundland and Labrador, bringing a great deal of knowledge and experience in her role as tour director to this extraordinary part of our country. Welcome again, Kari.
Thank you, Cindy.
And we're happy to have you here with us this evening.
Thanks again to Cindy for putting the presentation together and advancing the slides, and welcome to everyone joining us this evening. If you look close at the picture of me with the two Vikings there, those are my favorite Vikings. And I've searched all over Norway, and my favorite Vikings are definitely in Newfoundland. So it would be a pleasure for Westworld to take you there to show them to you. On the next screen, we're going to look at a map. I'm also going to change this presentation up a bit, as some of the areas are the same as the regular Newfoundland Labrador Zoom presentation I did in September. So if you find yourself wanting to know more about Newfoundland and Labrador, please make sure you go back and watch the first one as well. So you can see the map there. Newfoundland and Labrador is the easternmost province of Canada in the country's Atlantic region. It's composed of the island of Newfoundland and the continental region of Labrador to the northwest. Labrador is the primarily continental portion of the province, and it constitutes 71% of the province's area, but it's actually only home to only 6% of the province's population. It's separated from the island of Newfoundland by the Strait of Belle Isle, and you can just see that on the map there, that tiny body of water in between. It's bordered to the west and the south by the Canadian province of Quebec, and Labrador also shares a small border with the Canadian territory of Nunavut. Labrador is named after a Portuguese explorer, and in 1542, Basque mariners came ashore at a natural harbor on the northeast coast of the Strait of Belle Isle. A whaling station was set up around the bay that is now named Red Bay, after the red terracotta roof tiles they brought with them. A whaling ship, the San Juan, sank there in 1565 and it was raised in 1978. Newfoundland and Labrador are the newest of the Canadian 10 provinces. They joined Confederation in 1949, and in 2001, the name was officially changed to Newfoundland Labrador. Newfoundland and Labrador remained under the British rule until joining Canada in 1949. So the north-south extent of the province, it has prevalent westerly winds, cold ocean currents, and local factors such as mountains and coastline that combine to create the various climates of the province. More than half of the population live in the Avalon Peninsula, which is in the southeast portion of the island of Newfoundland. On the west coast, the land rises abruptly from a narrow coastal plain to the long-range mountains, which reach a maximum height of 2,670 feet. The mountains give way to a plateau that slopes gently downward to the northeastern coast, and it's got many headlands, islands, and bays. The plateau is dotted with thousands of lakes and ponds, numerous streams and rivers. The coastal terrain is hilly and rugged, and the coast itself is marked by numerous bays and fjords. And there's also many offshore islands as well. Okay, on the next slide, it's going to show some of the tour highlights of the places that we will visit. There are several locations where we will spend more than one night, so we don't have to pack up our belongings each night. We'll just take whatever we need for the following day. As you can see there on the tour highlights, we will be going to a National Historic Site, as well as several UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Our tour will include several lighthouses, some genuine Newfoundland style music that will include a kitchen party and the Anchors Away show, as well as a mug up. There will be hiking and some guided walks, along with kayaking, whale watching, and a scenic boat tour. Now, the difference between a walking trail and a hiking trail is that a walking trail is relatively smooth and flat. It's a path or road that doesn't have many obstacles, whereas a hiking trail is more of a natural path, and it usually involves a change in elevation. Moving on to the next slide. You will fly into the Deer Lake Regional Airport, which is only a few minutes away from the town of Deer Lake. The town of Deer Lake is located at the intersection of the Trans-Canada Highway and the Viking Trail on Newfoundland and Labrador's west coast. Deer Lake is a gateway community that provides access to the Northern Peninsula and Labrador, again, home to 3 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Deer Lake is also the gateway to Eastern and Western Newfoundland, and it's also the snowmobile hub. It's located at the center of a network of groomed trails. The picture in the top left-hand corner is the lake that the town is named after. Okay, moving on to the next slide. The following morning, we will head north to Gros National Park. It took 485 million years for Mother Nature to create Gros National Park. It's the second largest national park in Atlantic Canada with an area of 697 square miles. The park takes its name from Newfoundland's second highest mountain peak at 2,644 feet, and that is located within the park. Gros Morne is a member of the Long Range Mountains. In 1987, the park was awarded World Heritage Site status by UNESCO because the park provides a rare example of the process of continental drift, where deep ocean crust and the rocks of the Earth's mantle lie exposed. Hiking the tablelands is an experience that you will never forget. Here, where the theory of plate tectonics was confirmed, you can walk over the ancient seafloor and the preserved ocean avalanches. It's a distinctive red landscape of the exposed Earth's mantle, thrust up by the collision of tectonic plates millions of years ago. In the bottom left and the right-hand corners are pictures of the Discovery Center, where we will learn of the complex geology, the flora and fauna of the area, before we venture out on our guided walk. We're going to show you the provincial flower of Newfoundland called the pitcher plant, and it has modified leaves known as pitfall traps, a prey trapping mechanism featuring a deep cavity filled with digestive liquid. The traps of what are considered to be a true pitcher plant are formed by specialized leaves, and the plant attracts and drowns their prey with nectar. So typically we will find those in the bog areas. So we'll look for one of those for you as well. Moving on to the next slide. We will drive the scenic route between Woody Point and Trout River, noting the contrast of color between the mountains that tower above us. One side will be lush green and the other a brilliant amber color, all divided. It almost seems as if the yellow line of the highway divides it. The pictures you're looking at here are of Trout River, and it was settled in 1815 by George Crocker and his family, who were its only inhabitants until 1880. We will tour the Jacob A. Crocker House, which is a 2-story biscuit box style house, and you can see that in the bottom left-hand corner. Trout River is a small rural fishing village located on the southern coastal edge of Gros National Park. On the next slide, our first overnight stay is for 2 nights in the beautiful town of Rocky Harbor, and it's near the entrance to Bon Bay. And this is honestly one of my favorite places. There's so much to do in Rocky Harbor, and it's just such a great place to be. The sea glass washes up on the beach right in front of the Ocean View Hotel. And if you're the first one out there in the morning looking, it's amazing what you can find, or quite often how much of it. If you're not familiar with sea glass, they're pieces of glass from broken bottles, broken tableware, and even shipwrecks that are rolled and tumbled in the ocean for years until all of their edges are rounded off. And the slickness of the glass has been worn to a frosted appearance. There are several different colors, and blue being one of the hardest to find. I had a guest one year that got up at like 5 a.m. and went out onto the beach, and she came back with pretty much a half a bag of all different colors of sea glass. Moving on to the next slide. In the evening, we're going to have a welcome dinner, followed by the Anchors Away show. Now, they're a very talented group of 5 local musicians that will entertain us with popular Newfoundland and Labrador songs and tunes. And they sprinkle it with some comedy and a display of culture. Now, the middle slide, you might be looking at that and wondering what the heck is happening there. That's a musical instrument known as the ugly stick. Now, the ugly stick is a traditional Newfoundland musical instrument fashioned out of household and tool shed items, typically a mop handle with bottle caps, tin cans, small bells, and other noisemakers. The instrument is played with a drumstick or a notch stick and has a very distinctive sound. Some will have rubber boots on the bottom to give it that extra bounce. Moving on to the next slide. The following morning, we will go on a guided kayak tour in the pristine waters of Bon Bay and soak up the spectacular views. Bon Bay separates the Great Northern Peninsula from the rest of the island. It is also part of Gros National Park. In the afternoon, there will be free time to have lunch, explore the town of Norris Point, or check out the 3 hiking trails. We will head back to Rocky Harbor, so you have time to explore it, and maybe some of you will need a quick rest before we partake in a lively kitchen party in the evening with lots of music and instruments. The music in Newfoundland tends to focus on strong seafaring tradition in the area, including sea shanties and other sailing songs. In outports and remote villages, social gatherings, mummering, and kitchen parties were an important part of the rural culture. And no trip to Newfoundland would be complete if you didn't get screeched in. And as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner in the picture there, you can look forward to kissing a codfish. The screech in is a ceremony performed on non-Newfoundlanders who are often referred to as come from away. It involves a shot of screech or a non-alcoholic beverage if you prefer, a short recitation, and the kissing of the cod. The following morning, we will continue heading towards the Viking Trail, making our first stop at the Lobster Cove Head Lighthouse, where we will learn about your first type of lighthouse and how the family used to live and work there. Lobster Cove Head Lighthouse has marked the marine approach to Rocky Harbor and the entrance to Bond Bay since 1897. The light is run by the Canadian Coast Guard and is now automated. For generations of mariners along the coast, the lighthouses were their only connection to land while out on a dark sea. Lighthouses come in varying shapes and sizes, and also how they were fueled and the different light apparatuses required to make them work. And we will learn all about the different lighthouses when we're traveling through Newfoundland and Labrador. Moving on to the next slide, there is no better way to explore the scenic delight of Western Brook Pond than by taking the boat tour. Once on board, behold the spectacular glacier-carved landlocked fjord. The waterfalls cascade from 2,000 feet, and they often turn to mist before ever reaching the pond at the bottom. There's billion-year-old cliffs and frequent wildlife sightings as well. So Western Brook Pond is a freshwater fjord, and it was carved out by glaciers during the most recent ice age. Once the glaciers melted, the land, which has been pushed down by the weight of the ice sheet, rebounded, and the outlet to the sea was cut off. The 9.9 mile long narrow pond then filled with fresh water, and that's what created the fjord. After the 2-hour boat tour, we will walk back 45 minutes and make our way to Port au Choix, traveling alongside the beautiful rugged coastline of the Gulf of St. Lawrence, past some tuckamore trees and the Long Range Mountains. The tuckamore tree is unique tree growth that consists of evergreen trees that bend low and cling to the coast as they try to escape the strong ocean winds. Over time, they become deformed, so they grow almost sideways, and their roots become gnarled as they spread across the barren land. Any of the unprotected branches wither and die without the rest of the tuckamore or the snow protecting it. In the top left-hand corner is Point Riche Lighthouse. Today, we will explore the crossroads of 6,000 years of human history and walk in the footsteps of the ancient cultures where the sea's bounty drew maritime, archaic, the Dorset, the Gros water, and the Beothuk, and the recent indigenous people as well, long before the Europeans arrived. We will discover how they lived off the land and from the sea, where seals on the passing ice floes were hunted for food, shelter, and clothing. We can explore the limestone barrens, looking for plants and fossils. On the next slide, we will visit the French Rooms, the cultural center, and learn about the French fishermen who fished in the region. We will learn about the resettlement era and watch a video of a house being floated into the harbor. You will be able to see some artifacts from the Point Riche Lighthouse as well. So it's quite interesting to actually watch or even watch the video of a house being floated. In the prairies, we just hire a moving company and a semi picks it up. But out in the Atlantic provinces in Newfoundland and that, what they do is they float it across in the water. We're going to stop for a piece of fresh bread. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner there, the lady has some buns that she's prepared. From 1713 to 1904, the French had the exclusive rights to fish on the French shore. And when the men left for the boats in the morning, the ladies would have the bread ready to take with them from the French oven. So you can see in the left-hand corner, the French oven there. And the bread is still being made every weekday in a replica oven built in 2004. They light the fire at 11:30 a.m. and they take the embers out around 2 p.m. They bake the bread, allowing visitors to watch the process. Although it takes a long time to warm the oven, the bread actually only needs about 5 minutes to bake it completely. And it's served with homemade Newfoundland berry jam or molasses. The following day, we will travel to St. Barb. We will take the ferry over to Labrador, where we will spend 2 nights at Xplore. You can see a picture of the ferry in the bottom left-hand corner there. In the afternoon, you will have free time to walk the Jersey Trail. Going in either direction, you have between 3 and 6 kilometers of walking on a heritage trail. And you can see the top left-hand picture there, shows the Jersey Trail. The trail tells the story of the early settlers, primarily those from Jersey in the Channel Islands, and their islands located between France and England. On the western side of the bay, the trail leads to the Jersey Rooms, where the foundations of buildings and stone walkways that were part of the 19th century Jersey fishing enterprise are still visible. The trail along the eastern side of the bay goes along a beautiful sandy beach, past the community graveyard, the bubbling sands, and along the shoreline. In the olden days, these footpaths were used to link the communities and were the only way to get from one village to the next. And some shipwreck survivors also used them as well. Moving on to the next slide, the following morning, we will tour the Point of Morne Lighthouse. You will have the opportunity to climb 132 stairs to the top and experience the daily tasks of the lighthouse keeper. Now that sounds a lot worse than it is, because you only go up maybe 7 or 8 at a time, and then we'll stop and have a rest and then continue on again. The Point of Morne Lighthouse is the tallest in Atlantic Canada and the second tallest in the country. It was built in 1857 to increase the safety of the transatlantic shipping. In the afternoon, we will arrive in Red Bay, Labrador. Red Bay was established by the Basque mariners in the 16th century. It's an archaeological site that provides the earliest, most complete, and best preserved testimony of the European whaling tradition. The whaling station, founded in the 1530s, was used as a base for coastal hunting, butchering, rendering of whale fat by heading to produce oil and storage. And it became a major source of whale oil, which was shipped to Europe, where it was used for lighting. We will travel to the site where we will hear stories and enjoy. In their left, on the top left-hand corner there, is a picture of the Pinchos. The site was used in the summer months, including remains of rendering ovens, cooperage, wharves, temporary living quarters, and a cemetery. Today, together with underwater remains of vessels and the whalebone deposits. The station was used for some 70 years before the local whale population was depleted. The Basque Welding Station was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2013. And in the bottom right-hand corner is a picture of a cupola. Now the whalers used them on the ocean to harpoon their giant catch, and that's an original one. So it's a must-see. On the next slide, the following day, we will depart Labrador by ferry, making our way to St. Anthony for a 2-night stay. This afternoon, you will have free time to tour the Grenfell Interpretation Center, the Grenfell House, and the Geordie Bonnet murals, and take a 20-minute hike to the top of the Tea House Hill. Dr. Grenfell was a medical missionary, originally from England, who was sent in 1892 to Newfoundland and Labrador to investigate the state of the fishery. This was the start of his lifelong work to aid the people of an isolated coast, ice-blocked and inaccessible for many months of the year. For his years of service on behalf of the communities, he was knighted by King George. He was devoted to improving the life of the people, and Dr. Grenfell practiced medicine. He built hospitals, established schools, an orphanage, and he became a legend in his own time. The bottom left-hand pictures show some of the ceramic Geordie Bonnet murals that were created and fabricated by the Montreal artist in 1967. Now on the next slide, after working up an appetite today, this evening, we're going to step back in time and partake in a Viking feast in a reconstructed sod building. And you can see a picture of it in the bottom left-hand corner. We're going to eat some traditional foods, such as Jig's dinner. You have the opportunity to try cod tongue and capelin, and followed by an evening of entertainment, which you see in the bottom right-hand corner and the top left-hand corner. The Norse, who came from Newfoundland to Newfoundland, were not fierce raiders in search of pillage and plunder. Their appearance in Newfoundland was the final step in a relatively peaceful expansion of livestock farmers across the North Atlantic, taking in parts of the British Isles, Iceland, Greenland, and finally Vinland. Now, the following morning, we're going to set off on a boat tour looking for humpback, fin, and minke whales, as well as dolphins. We'll check out the caves and colonies and look for kittiwakes, Arctic terns, and guillemots. In the bottom right-hand picture, you can see an iceberg behind the boat. Now, the time of year that we're going this year maybe isn't the greatest for icebergs, but it's great for whale watching. The icebergs, I'm just going to comment on because you never know. Sometimes there's some little bergy bits or something that linger on, but it's estimated between 400 and 800 medium and large icebergs flow along the iceberg alley every year. Their speed depends on the shape and size, winds, currents, and waves. As for the expression, the tip of the iceberg comes from the fact that only about 10% of the iceberg is actually above water. There's many different types of icebergs: tabular, blocky, wedged, pinnacle, dome, and dry dock. As icebergs drift south, warmer waters accelerate their melting, which make them dangerously unpredictable. And it can be quite scary when you're in a boat if you get too close to an iceberg, because you're never sure if it's going to flip and land on top of you, basically. The local breweries use the pure water of the icebergs to make their vodka, gin, rum, and beer. And chunks that have broken off of large icebergs and haven't melted yet are called bergy bits or growlers, depending on their size. Moving on to the next slide. You will have free time in the afternoon to hike some trails before we head out for an evening presentation and spend an evening by the fire with the Vikings, where we will toast the heroic deeds of Leif Erikson and his crew as the Vinland sagas are retold in the place where it all began. And you can see the pictures there of the fire, and they're dressed in period costume. Moving on to the next slide, our first stop in the morning will be at Lanson Meadows. At the tip of Newfoundland's Great Northern Peninsula lies the first known evidence of the European presence in the Americas. Here, the Norse expedition sailed from Greenland, building a small encampment of timber and sod buildings over 1,000 years ago. We will see the remains of the Viking encampment that was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1978 and interact with the Viking interpreters, seeing some of the artifacts. On the next slide, we will make a stop in Flowers Cove, where we will have the rare opportunity, as this is one of only 2 places in the world where you can see 650 million year old fossil structures called thrombolites. And you'll see that in the top right-hand corner. They are bun-shaped Cambrian mounds, growth form of millions of tiny algae and bacteria, and are extremely rare. The picture of the church below the thrombolites that you're looking at is known as the Skin Boot Church. Reverend J.T. Richards came to the Flowers Cove Mission in 1904 and served the people along the coast of the Strait of Belle Isle. Although a mission was established in 1849, there was no formal religious structures in the area. And this was in the days before government funding for such projects. So money was scarce. So Richards came up with the idea of raising funds to build a proper church. So with an appreciation of the skills of the local people in curing and tanning seal pelts, Richard launched an industry to make sealskin boots. And some of the proceeds from the seal boot industry financed the construction of this church. And that's why they refer to it as a seal boot church. After having the opportunity to check out White Rocks Trail, where you can peer into clefts eroded deep in the limestone pavement and discover plants growing in the shady rock gardens, we're going to make our way to Plum Point. So you can see the boardwalk there and the bottom left-hand picture. That's the White Rocks Trail. In the evening, we're going to have a Newfoundland mug up before heading off to bed. The following morning, we will make our way to the Arches. traveling through and stopping at Daniels Harbor. Daniels Harbor is known for Nurse Myra Bennett. She was known along the 200 miles of coast that was her responsibility simply as the nurse or the Florence Nightingale of Newfoundland. She was the only medical assistant for many people along that isolated stretch of Newfoundland's coast. And during her tenure, she estimated that she delivered 5,000 babies and extracted 3,000 teeth. While she officially retired in 1953, she continued to help people whenever she was asked to, long into her retirement. And she passed away in 1990 at the age of 100. So the two-story house in which Myra Bennett spent most of her life was recognized as a registered heritage structure in November of 1991. The bottom right-hand picture is the Bill Woods walking trail, and it takes you from the town of Daniels Harbor to Portland Creek Pond. So you'll have an opportunity to walk that trail. And the pictures of the arches on the left-hand side, in the middle on the right, show you a geological formation forms over millions of years as a result of glacial action, wind, water erosion, and other environmental changes. And to this day, severe storms still continue to change the arches. The picture in the top right-hand corner is a shop in Rocky Harbor. We're going to make our way back to Deer Lake along the Viking Trail, where we'll have our farewell dinner with our newfound friends and reflect back on the Newfoundland and Labrador's adventures before flying home the next day. I would like to encourage everyone to add Newfoundland and Labrador to your bucket list of travel destinations. And in closing, I would like to thank you for joining us tonight, and a special thank you to Cindy for putting together the slide presentation for us to talk about.
Better put myself on mute here. Thanks so much, Kari, for that informative presentation. We really appreciate all your knowledge on Newfoundland and Labrador. And I know you love there. I know you enjoy spending your summers there on tour. And we're very pleased that you're able to join us this evening to present our tour to Newfoundland and Labrador. So now at this time, we're going to get to your questions, and let's see what we've got here. Kevin wants to know, what is a mug up? Kari, can you answer that question?
A mug up is a Newfoundland term. What they used to do is when the fishermen went out during the day, they would come back in the evening, and before bed, they would have like a cup of coffee, hot chocolate, a piece of that homemade bread. And in Newfoundland, they like their molasses. So they would put molasses on it, or local berry jam as well too. So it was just something to warm you up after a long day of being out on the water.
Get together with the family and your friends and warm up and settle in for the evening.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have another question here from Hannah. She wants to know which part belonged to France. I think it was the, in Port au Choix, it was the French had the rights to fish the area, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. And Valinda wants to know, will we be looking for puffins and other seabirds? Yes, of course. They would be on our on the whale watching tour, on the boat tour there will be, as I think Kari had mentioned, some different seabirds that would be available to keep our eyes open for. Is that correct, Kari?
That's correct. Yeah, we're always looking for seabirds for sure.
Especially those little puffins. They're so cute. Cute and colorful. Dawn wants to know, is there a tie-in to a southern tour through to St. John? That's a good question. And at this point, Dawn, no, this particular tour for the Women Xplorers is the Newfoundland Labrador portion that we've described. Our Westworld Tours does have an option where you can combine our part of our Maritimes tour with our Newfoundland and Labrador tour. Now, our Westworld Tours tour to Newfoundland and Labrador does include St. John. So you, I believe on that particular tour, you will start in Deer Lake and end in St. John's. or you can start in St. John's and end in Deer Lake, depending on which particular tour it is. So I hope that's answered your question. Let's see. Joanne has a question. What is the cost including taxes? A great question, Joanne. And you will be receiving an email likely tomorrow that will give you a link to all of the information on this tour, a detailed itinerary. It is available on our website, westworldtours.com. Pardon me, you can certainly check there for the pricing and contact us and we can give you the total including taxes, or you can contact your local travel agent as well. Cynthia wants to know, oh, Cynthia, sorry, I just had was reading your message here. Slideshow dates of July 16th to August 6th. That seems longer than 12 days. Did my eyes fool me? That's a good question. Let's double check that. It's July 26th to August 6th. So thank you for spotting that. And yeah, that would definitely be about 10 days. That'd be about 22 days in total. This particular tour is July 26th to August 6th. Thank you. Hannah, the trip looks like mostly walking, needs good body shape. Good question, Hannah. There is a lot of walking on this tour, as we indicated. It is a, you don't need to be physically fit. Walking 2 to 3 kilometers at a time. Some days it might be up to 6 kilometers, depending on the trail length. Of course, you have the option to not go on those walks if you choose to as well. You could choose to spend your time in the town of, you know, St. Anthony or Port au Choix, depending on where exactly we're going to be on those days. But the walks are not hard. They're very easy walks, well-packed, traveled trails. So you're not really climbing over hills and, you know, there may be some stairs involved on the Tea House Trail, that type of thing, but they are not extremely difficult trails and the distances are not lengthy. And of course, it may be just one trail a day. So you're not walking all day. I hope that answers your question. How many on the tour is a question by Dawn. Dawn, thank you for asking that. The maximum passenger on this particular tour is 20. It's a small group tour. Joanne, what is the transportation between sites? Yes, that's a good question. We're on a bus. It is a modern, comfortable bus. You know, probably 25, 26 passengers. Modern, new, great drivers. So yeah, we're on a bus, just like a regular coach tour. You'll be transferred place to place by coach. What is the temperature and what type of clothing should we wear? Lynn was asking the question. Kari, I'll let you answer that. For myself, I would say layers, but you're more familiar with Newfoundland and the temperatures during the summer months, so I'm going to let you speak to that one. Thanks.
Yeah, the weather changes depending on where we are in the province. It can be hot, where you'll want to wear shorts or capri pants, and some days might be mozzie, which means it's rainy or misty or foggy. Layered clothing are definitely the thing to do. Sometimes you can wear sandals and sometimes socks and shoes.
Sorry, go ahead, Kari.
There's some days too where it's a great idea to bring like a fleece, where you can always put that underneath a jacket, or if you have a rain jacket, a hat is a good idea. And I always tell everybody when they come on this tour to bring one of those little pairs of gloves from the dollar store, because that just takes the bite off of the chill sometimes too. Whenever we're out on the water, it can be cooler out there too. So it's just a good idea to bring that extra fleece if you have like a poncho or a rain jacket, but definitely bring like t-shirts or capri pants as well, because it can go either way. I had a lady one year that started out wearing her shorts, and by noon she'd actually purchased a pair of flannel tartan Newfoundland pajamas, and that was the highlight of our day. It was hilarious and so much fun. So
yes, it's like you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes, it'll change for sure.
That's right.
Yeah, we highly do recommend that you wear comfortable casual clothing, good walking shoes. It wouldn't be necessary to have hiking shoes, a good pair of runners, something that's, easy to walk in and going to be comfortable for sure. We do have one more question here from Carol. Carol is asking, is the tour only for women? Yes, this particular tour is designed specifically for women. And yeah, it's all women. Let's see if we have any more questions at this time. I know one question that we do get asked quite regularly is like, what are the meals included? And on this particular tour, breakfast is included daily. It's a hearty breakfast, hot breakfast, and fill you up for your day. And then we have also included 4 evening dinners on this particular tour as well. And lunches, Kari, I'll let you speak to, like maybe the restaurants and what the meals are like and maybe an average pricing, that type of thing.
Yeah, the lunches tend to range between $20 to $25 per person for the noon meal. And that's basically because Newfoundland is an island, so everything that has to be brought in. And lots of times, because of the remoteness of the area that we're in as well, we will have choices and pre-order the meals and look after it that way.
Yeah, okay, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. I know a lot of people will also ask about a deposit on a tour like this. And for this particular tour, a deposit of $350 is due at the time of booking. Our deposits are always 100% refundable. And on this particular tour, they're refundable up until 61 days prior to the tour start date, at which time the final payment would be due. So I know that's a question we get asked quite regularly. Hannah asked the range of age. Good question, Hannah. Again, it's designed for women of all ages and backgrounds, depending on your activity level, I would imagine. It's range, I would say, depending on your activity level, you could be, maybe you're a mother-daughter, maybe you've got, a mother of a teenager and want to go on this tour together. There's really no age limit. It would be more based on your activity level. And the trip price not included the meals. Yes, as I mentioned, we have breakfast daily included, and 4 dinners throughout the tour are included as well. So I think we've answered all of your questions. If we have missed anything, by all means, please do send us an email to information@westworldtours.com. And as I mentioned, we will follow up with everyone tomorrow, and you'll have the link to all the information for this tour. And you can always reach out to us for more information on this tour or others by visiting our website at westworldtours.com, emailing us at information@westworldtours.com. You can follow us on Facebook or by contacting your local travel agent. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us this evening. And we hope you found our presentation informative. And we thank you again to Kari for joining us this evening. And we hope that you can join us on this tour to Newfoundland and Labrador. Enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to be here. And I would like to encourage you, as Newfoundland and Labrador are an absolutely amazing part of Canada.
Yes, they certainly are. I know Newfoundland and Labrador is on my bucket list, so I can't wait to get there and experience it for myself. Good night, everybody. Again, thank you so much.